I was helping my friend get over her boyfriend's betrayal until I realized that I was that boyfriend. I met Naomi on a sticky August evening in a dive bar that smelled like stale beer and worse decisions. She was slouched over a half-empty glass of whiskey, staring into it like it held the answers to life's cruel riddles. I'd been dragged there by my coworker, Rob, who insisted we needed to network, which, in his language, meant get blackout drunk and flirt with strangers. Naomi wasn't a stranger for long. She had this laugh, sharp, sudden, like it surprised her every time. I made it my personal mission to hear it as often as possible that night. I guess I have a type: wounded girls with dark humor and no interest in being saved. Somewhere between my third beer and her fourth whiskey, she told me about her boyfriend, Mark. How he'd been distant, weird with his phone, how he'd stopped looking her in the eye during sex. I did what any decent acquaintance would do. I listened. I made sympathetic noises. I told her she deserved better. She snorted at that and said, "Don't we all?" That night, I walked her home. She offered me a drink inside. I declined, mostly because I knew if I went in, I wouldn't leave. And I told myself I wasn't that guy. Not yet. Over the next few weeks, Naomi and I became something resembling friends. She texted me at 2 a.m., asking if I was awake. I always was. Or at least, for her, I made sure to be. She'd vent about Mark, how cold he was, how she felt like a ghost in her own apartment. I'd text back lines like, "You deserve better," and "He doesn't know what he has." I'd watch the 3 dots flicker on the screen as she typed back something raw, something bruised. And every time, I'd feel that little tug in my chest that told me I was exactly where I shouldn't be. Here's the thing about me. I love broken things. I love the illusion that I can fix them. Or maybe I love breaking them further, just to see what happens. Maybe that's more honest. One night, after Naomi finally moved out of Mark's apartment, she called me, voice thick with tequila and tears. She said she was standing outside a shitty motel because she couldn't stand her mom's questions or the silence of her new studio. She asked if she could come over. I could have said no. I didn't. She showed up on my doorstep with a backpack and mascara streaked down her face. I told myself I'd let her crash on my couch. I even brought out a blanket and a pillow. But the second she stepped inside, she wrapped her arms around me like she was trying to crawl inside my skin. And I let her. God help me, I let her. I wish I could tell you that was the first time I cheated on my girlfriend, Mia. It wasn't. It was just the first time it mattered. I didn't see Naomi as just a fling. I saw her as some tragic proof that I was needed, wanted. I was the hero in her story, or so I told myself, in the dark, while she was curled against me, whispering how glad she was to be free of that bastard Mark. I should have told her the truth. That I was Mark. Well, not really Mark, but close enough. The faceless asshole she hated so much. The nameless fling her boyfriend had been seeing behind her back. Because a month before Naomi ever found out about Mark's betrayal, Mark had been my drinking buddy at the same office parties, my occasional wingman when I didn't want to show up to bars alone. Mark had introduced me to his girlfriend, Naomi, exactly once, at a Halloween party where she'd been dressed as a dead bride and I'd been too busy flirting with some intern to remember her name. Mark never told me much about her, except that she was clingy and too serious. When I slept with him, it was a joke. A stupid, drunken mistake that neither of us really admitted was more than an accident. He ghosted me after. Switched jobs. Naomi never knew who the other woman was, only that there was one. And now here I was, holding her while she sobbed about that mystery betrayal. The betrayal that was me. I told myself I'd come clean. Every time I looked at her sleeping next to me, I told myself tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Because she was healing. She was better, wasn't she? And if I told her that the man she thought was her savior was actually the knife in her back, then what? So I stayed silent. I let her believe she'd exorcised her ghost. Until she found the emails. Goddamn my emails. I still remember the way her face collapsed when she read them over my shoulder. Her voice didn't even crack when she asked, "Is this you?" I couldn't lie. Not then. I just stood there, staring at her like she was a dream I'd stolen, and she'd just woken up. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just walked out. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard from her since. But I can't feel the story waiting to come apart, because she's out there, telling people about the monster who pretended to save her. And maybe I deserve it. Maybe I deserve worse. Maybe this is just the beginning. If I'd been smart, I would have left town the second Naomi slammed my door behind her. But I'm not smart. Or maybe I'm arrogant enough to think I can fix this the same way I ruin everything else, by talking too much and pretending honesty can bleach bloodstains clean. After she left, I did what any self-respecting coward would do. I drank. A lot. I spent the first night scrolling through our old messages, reading her, "You're the only one who really listens," and "I don't know what I'd do without you." Lines that, at the time, inflated my ego so big it could have blocked out the sun. Now they just feel like gravestones for a person I pretended to be. Mia found me like that. Sitting on the floor, glassy-eyed, my phone screen lighting up with all the angry messages from Naomi that I hadn't been brave enough to open. Mia stood there in her bathrobe, hair tied up, toothbrush still in her hand. She asked, "Is it happening again?" She didn't have to clarify. Mia always knew. She has this uncanny ability to smell my bullshit before I even finish shoveling it. I didn't answer her, just gave her that blank, apologetic stare I'd perfected over 2 years together. She shook her head, walked back to the bathroom, and shut the door like she was putting the final nail in a coffin. The next morning, she was gone. A note on the fridge, "Get help. Don't call me." So there I was. No girlfriend, no Naomi, no Mark, who, for the record, had already texted me exactly one line: "You're dead to me." Fair. A saner man would have taken this as the universe's not-so-subtle hint to crawl under a rock. Instead, I decided to try one last thing: an apology. Not the half-assed, "Sorry if you felt hurt" kind I'd given Mia a dozen times before. A real one. I texted Naomi first. She blocked me. So I did what any desperate, cornered liar does. I showed up at her work. She works at this overpriced boutique that sells candles that smell like heartbreak and soaps that cost more than my entire conscience. I stood outside for a good 20 minutes, rehearsing lines in my head. I had a whole speech planned about how broken I was, how I never meant to hurt her, how I didn't even know it was her back then. She walked out to take a smoke break, saw me standing there, and froze like she'd just seen a ghost. Maybe she had. "Go home," she said, her voice flat and deadly calm. "I just want to talk," I said, which is funny, considering I'd spent so long doing the exact opposite. She laughed, sharp and cold. "You want to talk? Now you want to talk? After you pretended to be my fucking shoulder to cry on while you were the reason I was crying." I opened my mouth, closed it. Everything I'd practiced melted right there under her stare. She flicked her cigarette at my feet. "You're worse than Mark. At least he didn't pretend to be my savior." That one landed. I felt it in my teeth, in my gut, in the small piece of me that still wanted to believe I wasn't as bad as her ex. But she was right. I was worse. I tried one last time. "Naomi, please. I need you to know I'm sorry." She stepped closer, her eyes dry and merciless. "I don't care if you're sorry. You know what I care about? Never seeing you again." Then she turned and walked back inside, the automatic door swallowing her up like the universe itself was done with me. I stood there for a while. Long enough that the girl behind the counter came out and asked if she should call security. I told her no, thank you, and I left like a polite ghost. That night, I checked my phone again. No calls from Mia. No new emails from Naomi. Just silence. The kind of silence that hums in your ears and makes you wonder if you ever really existed to the people you broke. I don't know what I thought would happen. That she'd forgive me? That we'd go back to late-night confessions and half-drunk honesty? That I could lie my way back into being the hero of her story? Here's what I know now. You can't heal someone when you're the infection. You can't play savior when you're the villain hiding in the walls. So yeah, I'm alone now. Mia's gone. Mark's probably telling everyone who'll listen that I'm a piece of shit. Naomi's out there rebuilding her life, brick by brick, without me standing in the rubble pretending to help. And me? I'm sitting here in my half-empty apartment, writing all this down like it's a confession anyone asked for. Maybe I'm hoping someone will read it and decide I'm worth forgiving. Maybe I just want the story out there so Naomi never has to explain it again. Maybe I still think the truth can save me. It won't. But I'll keep telling it anyway. It's a special kind of hell, being the villain in your own redemption story. People love to forgive a repentant sinner, unless the sin is so damn insulting that forgiveness makes them look like fools. I guess that's what I am now, the punchline to a cautionary tale no one asked for. After Naomi shut the door on me literally and metaphorically, I did what all lost causes do. I called my mother. Don't laugh. Everyone has their rock bottom, and mine sounds like, "Mom, I messed up." She didn't pick up, which was probably for the best. My mother's brand of comfort is to remind me that my father was the same, that I come from a long, unbroken line of men who can't keep it in their pants and think apologies grow like weeds in the backyard. So instead, I went to the only bar that didn't cut me off years ago, Tony's Place. It's a filthy little hole with flickering neon lights and a bartender who knows my poison and doesn't care if I drink myself sideways. Tony was there, wiping down the counter like he was expecting a health inspector who'd never come. He raised an eyebrow when he saw me, then poured me a double without a word. "You look like shit," he said, sliding the glass over. "Feel like it too," I told him, which made him grunt, Tony's version of a pep talk. I sat there for hours. No phone, no distractions, just the taste of cheap bourbon and the sound of my own head chewing itself alive. Around midnight, someone sat down beside me. I didn't look up until I smelled her perfume, smoke, citrus, and regret. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. I looked over. Jess. A girl I'd hooked up with once, maybe twice, months ago, when Mia and I were on one of our pretend breaks. She looked good. She always looked good. The kind of good that made you promise things you'd forget by morning. "What do you want, Jess?" I asked, voice already slurring at the edges. She shrugged, stirring her drink with a red straw. Saw you here alone. Figured you might need company. Company. That word used to make me feel less empty. Now it just sounded like an accusation. I'm radioactive right now, I said, finishing my glass. You don't want any part of this mess. She laughed, a soft, bitter little sound. You think I don't know that? You think any woman who sits next to you doesn't know exactly what she's signing up for? That one stung, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I ordered another round. She didn't move. Neither did I. We just sat there, two ghosts haunting each other. Is it true? She asked finally. What people are saying? That you screwed over your friend's girl? I almost lied. Out of habit. But what was the point now? So I nodded. She whistled low. Damn. You always did aim for the self-destruct button, huh? I didn't have an answer for that. Maybe I still don't. Somewhere between my third and fourth drink, Jess leaned over and kissed me. It wasn't sweet. It was the kind of kiss you give someone when you're both trying to forget your real names. I kissed her back because I didn't know how not to. We stumbled out into the alley behind Tony's, giggling like teenagers. It was cold, wet, smelled like piss and old grease, perfect backdrop for two degenerates pretending they're not lonely. She pushed me against the wall, her hands on my belt buckle, her breath hot against my ear. For a second, just one glorious second, I let myself sink into it. The easy numbness. The lie that I was still wanted by someone who didn't care who I really was. Then, just as quick, I stopped. Pushed her back. What's wrong? She asked, breathless, mascara smudged. I looked at her, really looked at her. And I saw Naomi. I saw Mia. I saw every person I'd ever pulled into my orbit just to watch them burn up. I can't, I said. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. Jess rolled her eyes, wiped her mouth. Your loss, asshole. She left me there, leaning against the wall, pants half undone, dignity pooling at my feet with the rainwater. I laughed at myself, this hollow, ugly sound that echoed off the brick. I walked home, sobered up somewhere between the 3rd mile and the cold bite of dawn. My phone buzzed once, Mark, again. Just 3 words this time. Stay the fuck away. Noted, buddy. Crystal clear. So here I am now, 3 days later. Sober. Alone. Sitting in the same apartment Mia decorated, staring at the same couch where Naomi once curled up and called me her safe place. I keep replaying it in my head. The betrayal, the lies, the stupid, desperate hope that maybe I was different. Maybe I could be her savior. But the truth is simple and sharp. I'm no one's savior. I'm the story they warn their friends about at brunch. The reason they double-check locks and passwords and birth control. And maybe that's all I'll ever be. I've learned that the worst part of being hated is how quickly you get used to it. There's an odd comfort in knowing you're the villain, like you don't have to pretend anymore. No more well-rehearsed apologies, no more half-baked redemption arcs. Just you, your mistakes, and the silence you deserve. I spent the week after Jess in something that looked like penance if you squinted hard enough. I scrubbed my apartment clean, like bleach and Lysol could purge the rot in my ribcage. I deleted old photos. Naomi, Mia, even Mark. Wiped them all. The only thing left was me in the mirror, 33, puffy-eyed, jawline half-hidden under regret and cheap whiskey calories. On Wednesday, Rob, remember him? The coworker who thought networking meant drinking until sunrise, called me. He hadn't heard the story yet. Lucky bastard. Hey man, he started, his voice oozing that clueless cheerfulness I used to envy. Haven't seen you at the office. You alive? Define alive, I said. He laughed like I'd made a joke. Anyway, some of us are grabbing drinks tonight. You should come out. Get your mind off. Whatever. Whatever. If only it were that simple. I almost said no. Almost. But then I remembered that sitting alone in my living room was starting to feel like solitary confinement, and I'm not built for prison, literal or metaphorical. So I said yes. I told myself it wasn't weakness. That's a lie, of course, but I'm good at those. We met at this trendy gastropub downtown. You know the kind, exposed brick, Edison bulbs, menus printed on recycled paper. Rob waved me over to a table where the usual suspects were pretending they hadn't Googled each other's salaries 5 minutes before showing up. They greeted me like nothing was wrong, like I hadn't turned our mutual friend's heartbreak into my personal buffet of self-pity. For a second, I wondered if they even knew. Maybe they didn't. Maybe I could just drink my overpriced IPA and laugh at the same tired jokes and pretend I was still one of them. And then, of course, Mark showed up. I knew he would eventually. This city is too small for men like me to hide forever. He came in like a storm, shoulders squared, jaw clenched, that look in his eyes that used to say I've got your back, and now screamed I'll break your jaw. Rob stiffened beside me. You too good? I didn't answer. Mark did. He walked right up to the table, eyes locked on me, ignoring the curious glances from everyone else. He didn't say anything at first. He just stared. There's a special horror in realizing someone you once called a friend now wants to spit in your face in front of an audience. Finally, he spoke. So this is where the rat hides. Rob tried to interject, something about, hey, let's keep it cool. Bless his heart. Mark shut him up with one look. Get up, Mark said to me. I didn't. I stayed seated, legs glued to the sticky wooden bench, fingers tightening around my glass like it could anchor me to something decent. Mark, I started. He slammed his fist on the table so hard the glasses rattled. Get up. The entire bar turned to look. Everyone loves a train wreck when it's not theirs. I stood. What else could I do? He deserved a shot. Maybe I even wanted him to take it. He leaned in close, his breath hot with beer and fury. You think you're sorry? You think you can just crawl back here like you didn't fuck my life up? I didn't bother lying. No. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd punch me. I almost hoped he would. Instead, he did something worse. He laughed. Low and mean. You know what the best part is, he said, voice dripping venom. She's better off without you. Both of them are. And you're gonna die alone, man. You're poison. He stepped back. No swing. No push. Just that truth, sharp as broken glass. Then he turned and walked out, his shoulders so tight they looked like they might snap. Rob watched me like I'd sprouted horns. The rest of the table pretended to check their phones, suddenly fascinated by Instagram reels instead of my public crucifixion. I left. Didn't even finish my drink. Didn't say goodbye. I walked the 2 miles home. No coat. Just the wind cutting through me, reminding me I was still here, still breathing when maybe I shouldn't be. When I got back, I sat on my floor in the dark. No TV. No music. Just me and the echo of Mark's words. You're poison. Maybe he's right. Maybe I am. The part that scares me is how easy it is to accept that. How tempting it is to just settle into being the villain, wear it like an old coat. At least villains don't have to pretend they deserve love. Somewhere out there, Naomi's healing. Mia's probably rewriting her story without me as the footnote. Mark's angry, but he'll move on as he always does. And me? I'm here, writing it all down. Because if I don't, I might forget just how deep the rot goes. I'd love to tell you this ends with redemption, some clean, cinematic moment where I stand in the rain, arms outstretched, whispering apologies to the universe while Naomi forgives me and Mark buys me a beer. But if you've stuck around this long, you know that's not the flavor of my life. This story ends the only way it can, with me sitting in the fallout I built for myself, hoping the silence doesn't swallow me whole. After Mark's little public exorcism at the bar, my phone started ringing again, but not with the voices I wanted. Rob called first, mostly to say I'd embarrassed him in front of people who think LinkedIn endorsements are a form of currency. Then Jess texted, because of course she did. Heard you got your ass handed to you. Still want to pick up where we left off. I didn't answer. I left the phone buzzing on the counter, next to a stack of unopened mail and the greasy takeout boxes I'd stopped bothering to throw out. There's something poetic about rotting food in a rotting apartment. Fits the theme. I don't know what I was waiting for. Maybe some cosmic sign that Naomi would want to hear me out one last time. Maybe an email from Mia saying she missed me, hated me, anything. But the universe didn't owe me a damn thing, and for once, it paid exactly what I deserved. Nothing. A week ago, I saw Naomi again. Pure chance or maybe punishment. I was in line at the grocery store, buying instant noodles and cheap beer like the caricature of a lonely man I'd become. She was 2 aisles over, holding a basket full of vegetables and almond milk. She looked good. Tired, but lighter somehow. She didn't see me at first. She was laughing with someone, some tall, bearded guy with a voice that rumbled in a way that made my chest ache with an anger I didn't have the right to feel. She touched his arm the way she used to touch mine when she was about to say something she thought was too dark for polite company. He laughed at whatever it was, leaned in, kissed her temple like he'd always known how. I stood there frozen, a carton of eggs sweating in my hand, wondering if it would be more pathetic to say hello or to run. She looked up then, locked eyes with me. It only lasted a second. Her face didn't twist with rage. She didn't flinch. She just looked at me like I was a stranger she might have brushed past in a crowded room. Then she turned back to her new life, new man, new version of herself that had no space left for my rot. That should have been freeing. It wasn't. It felt like I'd died and she'd come to the funeral, spit on the grave, and planted flowers on top. When I got home, I finally did the one thing I'd put off for too long. I sat down, opened a blank email draft, and typed out everything I wish I'd told her before I ever touched her. Before I ever lied. Before I ever pretended I was something worth trusting. I didn't send it, of course. I don't even know her new address, and I wouldn't drag my poison to her doorstep again even if I did. But I needed it out. Needed to know that somewhere, in the purgatory of my hard drive, there's proof I was sorry, even if I didn't deserve forgiveness. Mia never called back. I heard from a mutual friend she's seeing someone new, a lawyer. Of course. Someone stable. Someone whose apologies are hypothetical because he never needs to make them. Mark? He'll be fine. His anger will calcify into a story he tells at parties. Remember that asshole who slept with my girl and then tried to play savior? He'll laugh. People will shake their heads in disbelief, and they'll toast to better friends. As for me, well, here's the punchline. I still check my phone at 3 a.m. Still wonder if Naomi's typing out some furious message, one last wound to pick open. But she never does. She doesn't owe me her anger anymore. She took back her pain and left me with mine. That's fair. Maybe the fairest thing I've ever been given. I wish I could tell you I've changed. That I've found therapy, discovered God, deleted Tinder. I haven't. I wish I could promise I'll never do this again, hurt someone because I'm too hollow to stand my own silence. But the truth is, I don't trust myself to promise anything. Not anymore. So I sit here, writing it all down. Not because I want pity. Not because I think telling you makes me noble. But because stories need to be told, especially the ugly ones. Maybe someone will read this and recognize themselves before they become me. Maybe someone will slam the door before they have to watch someone else close it for them. If there's any mercy in this world, Naomi's out there sleeping easy. Mark's out there laughing at my expense. Mia's out there building something real. And me? I'm right where I belong, alone, with only my echo for company. Sometimes the villain lives. Sometimes that's the punishment. And maybe, just maybe, it's exactly what I deserve.